Thank you, David. Good evening. We are at a special session on January 25th, 2021. We will be beginning in closed session, but we do have a public comment for our closed session, which the agenda says is negotiations. As negotiations on reopening schools continue, I'm sorry, this is from Jack Galuli. As negotiations on reopening schools continue, there may be a ready solution for everyone involved. An editorial in the Ojai Valley News this week points to the great need for a community vaccination center in Ojai. If it could be located at Nordhoff High School, teachers could receive the COVID vaccine more quickly and be ready to receive students. Other schools in the district and the wider community could take advantage. Sorry, I'm going to set my timer here. If we can wait to open until a center is set up, such as a testing trailer that came to Nordhoff a few weeks ago, school safety could be greatly enhanced. Also, Governor Gavin Newsom has offered a new funding source for school safety upgrades. If granted, these funds could take some time to arrive, another reason to delay reopening. The governor's funds could pay for retrofitting school HVAC systems with high-quality filters effective against viruses. They could also fund the hiring of campus monitors to make sure students toe the line with masking and distancing. Most importantly, the funds could buy the supplies and personnel needed for weekly school-based testing of students and staff if Ventura County cannot provide. There is a large consensus among experts that regular weekly testing is a critical component for keeping schools safe and helping to stop, or at least not add to, a local pandemic spread. Testing is the only way to identify the 60% of carriers who are asymptomatic, allowing for effective tracing and control. New York City schools were a good example of a successful testing program until COVID from other sources spread so rapidly they were forced to shut down again. Recently, with declining numbers and regular testing, New York was able to reopen elementary schools. In the New York Post, January 23rd, President Michael Mulgrew of the New York Teachers Union said, "The city will not be able to open its middle and high schools because it lacks sufficient ability to test students and staff for COVID-19. Grades 6 to 12 may not reopen for the rest of the school year until testing can ramp up significantly. Right now, the city is stretched too thin for community testing. Does that sound familiar? On a smaller scale, it's Ojai, except our elementary schools open during high numbers with no testing, which is one more reason to keep schools closed a while longer. Currently, with COVID widespread in our community, there are many students and family members who have it. Just ask our teachers who are seeing it on Zoom in real time. Surely there are asymptomatic carriers who will come on campus if we don't test everyone before classes resume. So why not add convenient testing to the clinic? The Ojai Valley News editorial also emphasized extending the life of the current Monday testing center at Sarzati Park, which is closing after today, January 25th. Perhaps it will be moved to Nordhoff by the time schools reopen. Nordhoff, by the way, has one of the biggest parking lots in town and could easily accommodate both student and community traffic. A community testing and vaccine center would need the combined effort of district staff and union members working together.
3 minutes, Jane.
Okay, thank you. That was the end anyway. There was only one more sentence. I'm going to read that one sentence just to finish. It would show that the Ojai School Board is serious about keeping students and teachers healthy and thus the community they live in. Okay, our other public comments will be read at the open session, so we will now adjourn to closed session. So because we opened earlier, we actually are live right now. Welcome back. We are here from closed session. Oops, my computer is acting up here a little bit. I want to see if we have all our board members returning. We have Michael and Rebecca. There's Shelley, Kevin, Tiffany. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. There is no action that was taken in closed session to report out. I missed the flag salute. Before we do our flag salute, I would like to, excuse me, I'm going to pull it up so I can say it properly. Well, I can't find it, but I do want to recognize that our Ohio Unified School District properties are on Chumash lands, and we want to honor our first peoples of the valley. If you will join me for the flag salute, we can use the flag behind Kathy, I guess. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There are no emergency additions or modifications to the agenda. So if I can have a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor, Kevin?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. We do have a significant amount of public comments this evening, so I'll again ask the board to help me read those. I would like to let the community know that the comments, they are talking about reopening, which is not on our agenda this evening. That was on our agenda, our last meeting, which I think was January 13th. Tonight's meeting is a special agenda to finish the meeting that we weren't able to finish that night because it went past 10:30 at night. But we will still read the public comments for 2.1. And if Kathy can keep track of the 3 minutes for us, we will try to get through them all. I will read the first one, which is quite long. From Maeve Juarez, I have 2 children in the Ohio Unified Public School System, one in 3rd grade and one in kindergarten. I cannot begin to articulate the negative impacts I have seen in my family due to no school. I tried the virtual program and I tried the hybrid program. After too many days of tears, I made the heartbreaking decision to pull them both out of school. As a single mother, I cannot afford to put my children into a private school, and to be completely honest, I don't feel that I should have to be forced to make that choice. I am trying my best to homeschool both of my children. I work full-time to support my family. There was zero way for me to manage the virtual or the hybrid program. My children are already sad, confused, and depressed because of last year's restrictions due to the pandemic. To top it off, I had to pull them out of school. It breaks my heart when they ask me why one of their friends still goes to Ojai Valley School or Monica Ross, and my response to my 5-year-old is that I simply don't have that kind of money. I cannot explain to my children why the families that have financial means are allowed to have their schools open, but we cannot. I do not understand that, so I cannot give them an answer. Perhaps you can help me understand why private schools are open, but public schools are only half open. Homeschooling my kids is a huge disruption to any sort of normal life for a single mom working full time. I wake my kids up at 4:30 every morning to try to get their Kumon math work completed before I leave for work because there is no time by the time I get home at night, and I cannot afford to pay a tutor or a teacher to come to my house every day to do their schoolwork with them. My daycare lady watches lots of other Ojai children who cannot attend school, and she cannot manage to teach 5 kids in all different age groups. There are so many of us in the same predicament. We have, for the most part, just thrown in the towel and given up. However, this is at the expense of our children's development, self-confidence, social skills, mental and physical well-being. I understand I have come to you with a very personal problem. However, I need to again reiterate that there are many families in Ojai in the same predicament. Please follow the private schools and allow our children to go back to school. It is so important for our future and the mental health of our sweet little children. Kevin?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just there. Okay. I'll read a couple here. I am from Megan Conrad. I am concerned for the safety of us all, but I'm equally worried about the long-term effects on my school-age children. They are not getting the education, socialization, and various outlets they need to be kids. This is not a natural environment for any of us, but I think we can do better. Then from Kelly Thomas, I am writing in as a concerned parent for my children's education. Private schools in Ohio are teaching in the classroom full time, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 2:45. And they are doing this safely for both the teacher and the student. So I ask a simple question. Why can't Ohio public schools do the same? Our children's education and mental health needs are suffering greatly. They need to be in the classroom interacting with their peers and teachers more than once or twice a week. The education disparity between the private and public schools is creating a two-tiered system, the haves and the have-nots. In our small town of Ojai, the gap should not be this large. I am asking as a parent that the board members, administrators, teachers, parents, and community come up with better and more solutions to get our children back into school full-time. Thank you, Kelly Thomas.
Michael?
All right, the next one is from Max Thomas. My name is Max Thomas. I was born and raised in Ojai and have two kids at Topa Topa Elementary. I work for the fire department, and as a firefighter, we take oaths to protect our communities no matter the circumstances. I personally have gone into homes and transported hundreds of severe COVID cases. At our stations where we live, we've had outbreaks where we couldn't go home to see our families for 14 days. Through all of this, the members of our organization valued our commitment to our communities over our personal beliefs and fear. My question to the board, the teachers, unions, and administrators is, where is your integrity? You are elected and paid to educate our children, and you are failing. The fact that private schools have completely different standards is creating a two-tier system in the education system in the Ojai Valley, and please save us the smaller class size excuses. I would have thought in this time, you would have had the leadership to put fear aside and see how lost and depressed our kids have become. If you truly cared about our kids' education, this should make you sick. And instead of giving parents excuses, we should be finding creative solutions. To the teachers who become paralyzed with fear and are unable to perform their jobs, excuse me, they should be asked to resign. It's not just us firefighters who figured out how to safely get back to work. The county roads department, cops, grocery stores, airlines, hospitals, gas stations, you name it, they all figured this out. Why is public education system the last to get this figured out? Are teachers dying in the states and private schools where there is in-person classrooms? You have the most important job to me, my kids' future. Please don't use our kids' education and a pandemic as a union negotiating tools to gain more revenue for yourselves and programs. Concerned parent Max Thomas. P.S. How many families actually like keeping their kids home? How many of them recently moved here to Ojai from LA?
Rebecca?
Okay, this is from Emily Lyon. My children are not currently enrolled in the Ojai Valley District, but previously, 1920 school year, attended Miramani. I pulled it from the district because I was concerned about the level of education they would receive with distance learning. I believe I was right to be concerned. My kids are currently being schooled by myself and my husband through a private homeschool based in Ojai. They are doing well and thriving. My intent was to send my kids back to Miramani this fall, but if it's still distance spaced and with no return to normal, we will continue with our current program or seek in-person private schools. If the private schools can do it, so can public. There is a vaccine, and if teachers get it, I don't see what the problem is. As adults, we need to get our act together and realize we are ruining our children.
Forgive me if my internet cuts out, but Amber Wild says, my kids were so happy to go to school every day and have a safe, happy place to be with their friends and teachers. This year has been very helpful since my first grader can go to ABC Club, which he loves, but I unenrolled my daughter in fourth because learning on Zoom just wasn't working for her. Kids need to see each other and be in a class with teachers to learn well. They miss their social life and teachers. So many families that can that can will need to move to Ventura private schools, and it will take a lot of funding out of the Ojai school system. This is unfortunate, and we have to find a way for our kids to go to school safely.
From Everett Kemp, I am a third generation Ohioan. I was born in the Ojai Hospital and raised in the school district through high school. I am passionate about my town and the people that live here. It has brought to my attention that there is an issue with bringing the children back to in-class schooling within the district and the valley. I have several close friends with children in the school system and an educator myself. I would like to voice my concern for the children missing out on crucial learning opportunities with their peers while in school after a year of this pandemic. As we begin to gain a handle on this virus, it is time to make a turn back to normal life, and the children should be a top priority for their development into strong young adults. As humans, we need social interactions and learning from our friends, classmates, and teachers. That starts in school. The time is now, and we are losing it every day. Not to mention the stress and the parents having to juggle work schedules and day-to-day life. I strongly encourage the powers that be within Ojai Unified to step into high gear and bring the children back to in-class sessions with social learning and growing for our children. Thank you for your time and leadership moving forward in educating our next generation of Ojai youth.
Sorry, here I go. This is from Linda Thomas. To Ojai Unified School District, the elementary school children need to return to the classroom. The computer is a wonderful tool once the basic skills of learning to read, write, and do arithmetic have been taught in a classroom. The one-dimensional platform of Zoom classrooms is not working for elementary students who have no mastery over basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. They need in-person learning to resume. By contrast, in Ojai, the private elementary schools have returned to in-person learning. What are they doing to ensure that the students and teachers feel safe on campus? The Ojai School District has had over 10 months to explore reopening the school campuses. Would you please address what has been done? Have additional janitorial and maintenance personnel been hired for the daunting task of continually sanitizing the classrooms, offices, playground equipment, bathrooms, which would reduce the risk of COVID transmission? The teachers can't be expected to do that. Is there a protocol for getting students on campus through one entrance, one exit, where temperatures and masks could be checked? Have the teachers and staff been supplied with plexiglass barriers in classrooms, face shields, masks, gloves, adequate hand sanitizers, all paid for by the district? These are just some of the changes that would improve working conditions for the teachers so they might safely return to campus. These changes mean that extra help is needed now. Money was found in the budget for a new position of a public relations officer. Maybe she could recruit some volunteers or real extra help. If teachers felt adequate COVID safety measures were in their workplace, their return to work would not involve more risk than they take voluntarily in their everyday life by going to shops, markets, gas stations, takeout restaurants, doctors, and other social gatherings wearing masks and distancing. The continual talk about the virus and its dire consequences has paralyzed our existence. Our safety measures and their effectiveness should get more attention. This is the first flu season our family hasn't even had a sniffle. We are doing something right. It's time to get our students back to the hard work of learning and the teachers back to work. Respectfully submitted, Linda Thomas, 41-year Ojai resident, taxpayer with children and grandchildren who have been educated in the great Ojai School District.
Angela Stevens writes, teachers should be an essential worker. Firefighters, healthcare workers, grocery store workers are all essential and are unable to receive unemployment as long as they have an opportunity to work. Our communities depend on these workers for our well-being. Teachers are vital to the mental and emotional and educational health of our children. How could we neglect this vital need as a public school system when private schools are already recognizing the importance of caring for their students? This is complete neglect, and this neglect can be considered abuse. Our children are suffering and they don't have to. Make teachers essential workers. That's what our tax dollars are paying you for.
Okay, this is Amy L. Adamson. I am worried as I have heard rumors that the OUSD is considering moving to distance learning for this year and possibly beyond. I'm a very concerned parent of a first grader, as I do not see how this will bode well for kids. I have kept my daughter home up to this point for other reasons, childcare, furlough, etc. but I am wanting to get her back on campus and have communicated this as soon as possible. I feel the impact on all kids emotionally, mentally, and educationally is so severe that the thought of extending distance learning even for this year will be extremely detrimental. I understand the concerns of COVID, but there have been conversations on what we can do in the classroom to make the teachers more comfortable. Plexiglass around the desks, outside classroom, parent help. How are the private schools in our area able to be open without issue? Can we connect with them to see the protocols and plans? Are they able to continue simply because of money? So our kids are not able because of money? Can a parent/teacher board be created to discuss the options? I support and appreciate the teachers and can understand their concerns. So let's think out of the box and address their concern with some reason and come up with a plan. Our kids need time with their peers in the classroom with our teachers. Thank you, Amy Adamson, concerned parent of a first grader.
Pam Lameau says, as a member of Inspire, a group increasing community volunteerism in the Ojai Valley Public Schools, we have always recognized the close link between thriving students and well-served teachers. Led us to middle school, thereby creating a place of retreat and collaboration in the midst of hectic school days. We honor the hard work, dedication, and sacrifice of our teachers and see their well-being directly translating to healthy, competent students in our community. One of the most accurate prognosticator of a child's success in life is having access to at least one caring, concerned adult. Teachers are often that one. Now more than ever, in this isolating COVID environment, we're seeing firsthand the detriment to students' mental and emotional well-being, as well as diminished academic performance due to the lack of access to their teachers. That there is a risk involved in reopening the schools. Any great effort has trade-offs. I hope to inspire you to consider the benefits of in-class instruction far outweigh the potential risks. Together, let's strategize creative ways to get students back in classrooms and once again see.
We lost you at that last minute. It was once again, see students and teachers thrive. Ashley Shirk, dear Ojai Unified, I am writing in regards to notify you my concerns for sending my child back to school full time. I am hoping my letter, along with other parents' concerns, will make an impact on allowing kids to be back in person learning full time. If private school can be in the classroom full time safely, then why can't the public school system? My daughter misses her friends and peers, eating lunch together, playing, and participating in school activities. There has been a pattern established and so much inconsistency that it makes it hard for myself and my daughter to take school seriously. For example, the constant change in school schedule. My concern is this pattern kids are learning at a young age is creating a normal way of learning that is not okay with me or my husband. If we cannot have our daughter attend school next year full-time, we will pull her from Miramani and go to a different route, which will be private or homeschooling. This is the only way I can keep consistency for our family and keep our daughter thriving academically. Respectfully, Ashley Shirk.
This is from Sasha Roberts. Hello, I'm writing today as a mom of 2 elementary age school children. I have a first grader and a third grader in the district. I first off want to thank you for having the schools open for hybrid. To have an actual teacher teaching them is a load off our shoulders and our children's. Our son in first grade is so bright. He likes doing the paperwork with pencil and crayons, but that is not much. He has computer work that is repetitive and he dislikes doing it. The Zooms are not instructional at all, and I am doing all the teaching. I understand everyone is doing their best, but I am both of my children's teacher when they distance learn. It is a daily struggle to get them to do this work at home. We are both in tears at the end of each day. My daughter in third needs lots of help as well. It feels like unless you have money in Ojai and can afford to send your kids to private school, our children are not learning anything unless we, the parents, are taking hours of our day to teach them. I believe that with the precautions set in place, we can remain open safely.
Thank you. We did also receive some letters from some elementary school students. And though I'm not going to share their names, I am just going to.
Can I actually have them on the screen, so I might show them. Is that okay?
Oh, okay. Well, then we will see their names.
Yeah, I was gonna try and, I mean, they I think I can make it so we won't see their names. So let me share my screen, if that's okay. I just think it's, oh, David, can you make me the co-host? Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. And I know we talked about it, I just thought it was easier to read them. To Ojai School Board, I would really like to go back to school. I want to see my friends. I know that kids are not getting or spreading the virus. I like going to campus, not being on Zoom. I feel like I am not learning all that I should be learning. My brother is on Zoom for 4 hours a day. Ojai School Board, I wish we could go to school more than just 2 times a week. I miss my friends on the days I am not there because I used to see them almost every day. I don't think I'm learning everything I should be on Zoom and only learning a little of what I should be learning. I'm in 5th grade and next year I will be at Matilaha and I'm hoping to go back to school full-time at Matilaha. I like my school. I do not like Zoom. Please keep my school open. Dr. Morse, I want San Antonio to stay open because I like going to school with my friends. If schools closed again, I would feel really sad and I wouldn't be able to play with my friends and I would miss my teacher. I would want to go back to school because Zooms are really glitchy and I would do better in real school. And the distance learning is really hard when you are at home because of all the distractions, like my brother and my dog. And it is easy to miss Zooms. And if you miss a Zoom, you do not know what something is, you can't do it. And then your mom gets emails and you get in trouble for not doing something. And I would really, really, really want to go back to school more like 5 days a week so I get to hang out with my friends more. And I will get to see some of my friends that I haven't seen in so long. My name is Scotty. Sorry, can't block that one out. And I go to San Antonio. I want to go back to full-time school. I want to be with my friends and my teacher. On Zoom, it's really boring. I never want to be called on or answer a question. I never want my camera on. In real school, I like to get called on and answer questions. We are all very
Careful.
yeah, and stay 6 feet apart. And here's a random picture, which I think is not a public comment. Dr. Moores, I want Topa Topa to stay open because I like to play with my friends. In school closed, again, I would be sad and I would miss my friend and my teacher. I don't like distance learning because I don't learn as good as I do at school because there are more distractions at home or at Holy Cross. I wish we could go back to school more. Dear Ojai School Board, school's been closed for way too long. And my cousin who lives in Colorado has been in school for months. Zoom is boring. We learn the same thing over and over. We don't get assemblies, and in person, it's way more fun. Your student. P.S. Please open school so we can learn. And then this one, dear Dr. Morse, I just want to be with Miss Eck. I don't want to do ABC Club. I like being in Miss Eck's class because I can read my Magic Treehouse books. I want to go to school. I would not be happy if I couldn't go to Miss Eck's class. I wouldn't want to go to school at all, which is very nice. Dear Ojai School District, I think schools should be open because kids should have social interaction, meaning kids need friends. Also, some parents have jobs and some kids aren't as independent as other kids. Also, it's very hard learning on computers. That's it.
Thank you. So I know we don't engage to a back and forth on our public comments, but I would just like to recap kind of what we talked about at our last meeting in response to these. So the current schedule, as the district is running it, is that our elementary schools are open and will remain open at this time in the hybrid schedule. So AB schedule where your student goes either Monday, Wednesday from 8:30 to 12:30 or Tuesday, Thursday. There's hybrid learning in the afternoons. I'm sorry, there's distance learning in the afternoons and in the mornings, and for those students who are staying home. Our discussion back on January 13th was reopening the secondary schools for Matilaha and Nordhoff on February 1st, and that's something that's still being worked out. And just for the parents who don't know, we have done all those mitigating factors of having students' temperatures taken, having entrances moved around so that we don't have a group coming in all in one place. We do have outdoor spaces available for teachers, and we are following the public health guidelines of keeping our cohorts at under 14 students in the classroom at one time, and then having time after those students leave for cleaning that room. And we have also hired extra staff to do extra cleaning. So I just wanted to kind of highlight those answers to those questions. We have moved on to 2.2, which is our employee union comments. First, we'll start with CSEA President Chuck Crawford. Good evening, Chuck.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to see everybody on the screen there. I hear the comments about Ojai, and it truly is different than other school districts. And I want to acknowledge that right up front. We have on the agenda tonight a tentative agreement that the board would need to approve, and the classified employees also need to ratify. But it's the acknowledgement that you do to see the work that's being done here for the people that do show up and are going and meeting those kids face to face. And I really want to thank you for acknowledging that, because they've been here since the get-go. And so I appreciate you looking at that agreement. The employees still have to ratify it. There's still some confusion as to who's on that list as far as, I mean, the district has been so responsive to the classified employees once they speak up and let their needs be known. For example, with the discussion about the custodial services, we have actually agreed to have temporarily a COVID person to make sure that all the supplies and all the thermostats and all that are in place at all the schools to be consistent from site to site, because the demands are different at each site. And there's a response right there that the district has met already, and I'm grateful. And the supplies are there. And just the idea that we can respect each other through a very difficult time, children don't fully understand because it's not about words. The fact that we've got this screen full of people having the discussion are actions. And there's plenty of good actions that happen in this district on a daily basis. And I just want to thank you. Louis Armstrong's music kind of reminded me about A Wonderful World. And the way that happens is by the action that each of us take. And that's what our examples we're giving to our children in this community, like so many of those comments that were made. I thank each of the classified employees for what they do, whether it's known or unknown, and the teachers. You know, I actually got to see blue uniforms on the Nordhoff campus this week, and a coach that is supposedly 3 months has been out there 9 months because of all of this. And who knows that? The kids know that, you know, and that's the kind of things that's happening in this district on a daily basis. And I just want to give that it is a wonderful world, that we can work together. We are working together. And we as classified, we have some work to do. We're not all in agreement, but that's why this is an ongoing picture. And to those children that are looking for the schools, we are working on your behalf. And it is the actions, it's not just words. With that, I'll finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. And our Ojai Federation of Teachers President, Angie Janassi. Good evening, Angie.
Hi, Jane. Sorry, I think I'm not sure if it's just mine, internet connection or if it's everyone's, but it seems a little unstable tonight. I don't have a lot to say tonight because we are in the middle of negotiations. And really, the only thing I wanted to say is that I have never seen Ojai Federation of Teachers feel so low and have such a low morale as I have right now. And one of the reasons I am the union president is because I care about my people. I care about the teachers. I care about this district. I care about the children, and it's really hard to see everyone so low. And I just wanted to express that. So other than that, I can't really speak to much of anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's tough on everybody. Superintendent's report. I think, oh, there she is.
I'm on mute and I need to share my screen. It's like the first time I've ever done Zoom before. All right, so I have a few standing ovations tonight. We have one for Lynn Wilson, noon supervisor and ABC Club supervisor. And we have one for Mike Vale, who is also our ESL coordinator. One for the entire RAFT team, which is our reading intervention program, Alex, Barbara, and Romy. And we have at Matilaha, Brenda Farron, Joel Topping, and Brianna Turner and Ella Grigsby, our student coaches. We have Maggie Burke, Jake Hansen, Jermaine Britton, and Todd Dickey. And I appreciate, by the way, the Dingman family. They submitted a lot, so it was nice to see that. Here are just a couple of the comments that were submitted. Brianna Turner and Ella Grigsby have volunteered to be the cheer coaches for the new Matilaha cheer squad. They plan with enthusiasm and cheer with pride each Friday at Matilaha to a cheer squad of 9. They are role models to the squad by practicing social distancing, being positive, and good students. After each practice, they post videos to their squad for practice during the week. Their kindness is contagious to the group. I can't say enough about these 2 varsity Nordhoff cheerleaders. So thank you very much to them. We'd love to see that. And I want to thank Mr. Hansen for giving students freedom of artistic expression in class and on assignments, and for bringing so many interesting and unique guest speakers to class. His class is so worth taking. So great to hear that from Jake Hansen. Just a couple of general updates. We held our first event in the Engage to Impact series, A Place at a Table, which is our work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And here's our featured article that was just in the Star. Our next one will be at the end of February, and we will look forward to giving the announcement about that at the beginning of February. Also, another just general update, we received a highly competitive specialized secondary program grant, an SSP grant, which will allow us to develop a certified nursing assistant capstone course for our medical pathway. And I would just say, I am very excited about this. I used to run the certified nursing assistant program. There's only one in the entire county, and it is in Camarillo. And one of the things that was really hard is to find intern sites for students. In Ojai, we're so lucky that we have so many internship sites for students, but we don't have a program. And so we're excited to replicate this program here, where we have students who can access internship sites. It may take us a little while with COVID. It's, it's a little hard to get into nursing homes right now, but in the future, we look forward to developing this pathway. A couple of COVID safety updates. This is not a robust return to campus because we just had that at our last meeting, but I just wanted to share, there's a few things, state things that we have to work on. This is a chart that just shows right now, all districts have to develop a CPP, a COVID prevention program, which is a plan that's based on the OSHA standards. And we have done that. We are finalizing that, getting that out. We have to report on our status of in-person instruction on a weekly basis. We just did that today. We have to compile a COVID-19 safety plan, so CSP, which consists of the CPP and also our COVID-19 school guidance checklist. So we have to do both of those things. And then eventually, in one of the public comments mentioned the in-person instruction incentive grant. That has not been approved by the legislature. In fact, it received somewhat of a lukewarm reception, the governor's plan did. And so there's still a lot of details about if and when that would be coming out, but it does require us to have all of these plans in place. And so we are working on that. Our next steps are to take these plans and consult with our union partners and then to consult with our Parent Advisory Council, and then to consult with community groups. So we're required to do all three of those things, which will be happening this week. A few other COVID safety updates. Our COVID safety monitor started last week. Chuck was referring to this position, so we're very excited. His name is Brandon. He was already an employee of the district, and he has a very broad job, which we will probably continue to narrow and define. Right now, he is our chief problem solver. So if we hear something happening with COVID, he takes care of it. He also does our deep sanitization. So if we have a positive COVID case on campus, he comes and sanitizes the room or the space before anyone uses it again. He's responsible for ensuring that all of our kits are updated, things like that, that we have all of the items ordered, and that when they're ordered, they're delivered to the warehouse and they get from the warehouse to the teacher who ordered them. So he's helping us to make sure that that system is efficient and effective. We are working on replacing our surveillance testing program. So if you remember, the state had issued not mandatory, but optional guidance to test staff, 25% of staff every 2 weeks, which we were doing. We were one of the few districts in the county who was doing that. Now that there are new testing requirements, that program is winding down. We just finished our tests, went out to our fourth and final group there. So we're working on a new testing program, and we have several meetings this week to get that in place. We also are working with the Ojai Valley Hospital and Ventura County Public Health on vaccine distribution and possible vaccine distribution sites. And then we've developed a couple of new classroom reporting tools, which we are excited about. So these are being laminated and distributed by Brandon. They're front and back. And basically, if you need more supplies in your kit, you scan this little barcode with your phone and automatically goes to a form. You can tell us whatever you need in terms of additional PPE. Brandon makes sure that that gets into your classroom. On the other side is our custodial responsibilities. If you have a concern about something in your classroom, you feel like maybe something was just missed, you can scan this and it goes to a form, and then we make sure that that item that was missed gets taken care of. So it's just a way to make sure that we have a system in place so that teachers can feel secure in their classroom. And if we need additional support, either with PPE or with custodial and sanitization, that we can follow up with that in a timely manner. So we're excited for these to be going out next week. And that is it for my superintendent's report.
Tiffany, since you have, do you also have control of letting people in? She got knocked off and she needs back in.
Yes, I just couldn't do it while I was in the presentation.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns from the board on the superintendent's report? We'll move on to 4.2.1, which is a tentative agreement with California, with CSCA and Ojai Unified. Chuck did mention this before. Tiffany, I think there was a slight update to the agreement to make sure we included some people who had inadvertently been left off.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes. So this is so if you remember, we had our COVID extra duties and responsibilities pay that was from the beginning of the school year through December. But we still have additional COVID duties and responsibilities. And so this is a different format of an agreement that's paid for with a different pot of COVID funding. This is right now provided to our classified employees who are working in situations where they may encounter or be a close contact. So people who are working regularly with students or the public. So the agreement is included in the draft agreement, tentative agreement is included in the board packet. We would like to amend this to add, we currently have instructional assistants, school office and clerical staff, custodians, healthcare technician, our ABC club staff, bus drivers, occupational therapists, and crossing guards, and we would like to include nutrition services staff. And so that would be the amendment. And I believe we also have a public comment on this one, Jane.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna go find it there because it's easier. The one public comment is from Cindy Sloan, and she says, oops, it's not in there. Oh, I'm gonna go over here. I asked the board to rethink this. There are several staff members excluded in this agreement that shouldn't be. From what I am hearing, this is causing a huge divide between staff and departments, as well as causing hard feelings towards the district. I beg you to please make this fair across the board to all classified staff. FYI, my staff was included in this agreement. Do I have a motion for the agenda item? Or other questions or any?
I did have a question. The addition of the nutrition staff and other folks, it's under the same conditions of eligibility, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I'll move to approve then.
I'll second.
All those in favor, Kevin,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
Shelley,
Aye.
Jane, aye. That passes 5-0.
And we should be able, for those staff that are currently working in person with community or students, we should be able to get that on their February paycheck. That's the goal. So.
Item 5.3.1, approval of school accountability report card.
This is the SARCs, which are an annual report card. These are generally pre-populated with data from the California Department of Education, and then our staff adds in the narrative descriptions. And so if you have any questions, we can answer those specifically about any of them.
I had a couple of questions which I had sent to you prior to the 13th, and I realized most of it is sort of not really up to date because we didn't have testing in the spring. We didn't have students on campus in the spring, so we have a lot of sort of older information. And that some of my questions were related to how it's populated, and I think Tiffany, like it wasn't showing at our elementary schools, our library and media tech people, even though we have them. And we're trying to, I think you said, reach out and update the forms. Like it's not something we fill out, it's something they fill out. So we have to get them to make the correction.
That is correct. And also our library and media techs are not included because they are classified, not certificated. So they just don't show up in that particular spot.
I had some of those same concerns, Jane. There were some numbers that just didn't look right of student populations and such, but realizing that it was pre-populated, not by us. So I don't have any further questions, and I would move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor, Kevin,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
Shelley,
Aye.
Jane, aye. That passes 5-0. Measure J before 6:30. Alan, Adam.
Yes,
Yes.
that is exciting. We should do this more often.
Sure.
Item 4.4.1 is our Measure J update.
All right. As for the update, does anybody have any questions on the actual update itself? And I think
I have a presentation for you, right?
I thought we had a PowerPoint from last time still.
You do. I just forgot to move it to this one. So give me 1 second.
No
and
problem.
I have it really easy. Knew there was something.
No worries. While it's coming up, does anybody have any questions about the any of the current projects for Alan or I?
There we go.
even better.
Hoping to hear for a grand opening for Matilaha.
We are super close.
Yeah.
In fact, we're doing a video promo shot tomorrow at 2:30.
So rather than a grand opening, Jane, we'll be having a video in which we are able to share with the community since they can't attend in person. So Mr. Hansen and Linda Jordan and Adam and Alan have been working on that with Francis, our Nutrition Services Director. Right. Do you want to walk through this?
Yeah. So this is the new back area behind the dining hall. New asphalt. It was obviously really bad, as well as there were some odd planters there right up against the building. So this was just one of the additions, including that concrete
The ribbon gutter. Yeah.
ribbon gutter. Yes, thank you. The concrete ribbon gutter kind of shoots everything out. There's a break point behind the building and either shoots it out to the west or the east. And we actually tested it obviously last week and it worked great. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alan. This is
the library at Nordhoff, and you'll see on the right side of your screen is what is primarily the book room, and that now has the cabinetry in and the bookshelves are in, and the lighting. You can see a reflection on the floor of the solo tube lighting. That lighting in there is awesome. And then on the left side of the screen is the main library, and the polished areas are going to obviously be polished, but the areas that are not polished are going to be carpeted. And so we're pretty close to being ready to put carpet in there. We last week and this week have installed most of the bookcases in here, and so the storefronts are in where you see plywood windows. Those are now glass. And the desk, the actual checkout desk is I'm going to say 60% complete. It's nearly getting really close. So we're making good progress on all the finishing. We've also been working on, well, maybe we'll go down a slide and see if we have the bathrooms.
No,
not quite. There's the seats and the cabinets. Yeah.
Here's the bathrooms.
Yeah, and those bathrooms, now we've got fixtures in, and made a lot of progress from the time these pictures were taken. So the bathrooms are 85% complete.
We were there today and they were actually stucco patching all the walls out on the exterior and whatnot. So it's exciting.
Yeah. And then we move on to the Matilaha dining room, and you can see the roll-up doors are going to provide open air access to the little breezeway, and then beyond that to the yard. And then you'll also see on the left side, this would be the dining hall side of the kitchen serving area, and we've got our Star Trek lighting in there. That's pretty cool. So we'll see probably a little more inside the kitchen area, I think, on the next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here on the right side is a look down kind of towards the storage. On the right side there, you see the walk-in refrigerator and freezer. And if you were to be able to see the left side, that's the dry goods storage area with wire racking. And then on the left picture is actually the serving line with the kitchen behind it. And so it's definitely coming together. We have about 4 items left on the punch list before we're ready to call this done. Okay, that's the ware washing room on the left. So that's where all the dishes get washed. And then on the right is kind of the food prep area itself with the stove and the range and the, all of the prep areas.
I think that washroom is as big as the kitchen used to be.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty close.
It's I think about 12 by 12, something like that. Okay, so then San Antonio parking lot has made huge progress since that ramp is now complete. The rails are not up yet, but that's all it lacks. The basketball tennis area there with the post that you see on the right has now been paved, and the basketball posts are up. In fact, the whole main parking lot has been paved.
Yep.
The only thing we lack is the entrance and exits, because we have to do those to some special conditions, that the requirements that the Ventura County has for encroachment onto the highway. So those are going to be coming up next week if the weather cooperates. And then you have the bus lane on the left, and that is going to get 10 inches of concrete, again, by county requirement. We wanted to pave it, but they said, no, you got to do 10 inches of concrete. So we're moving that fence over behind the other side of the tree line. And because that fence is currently in the county's right of way, and they said that's a no-go. So we have to move that. And then on the right side, you see that they're preparing the concrete trash enclosure. So we'll have a lockable, nice area of concrete that's fenced off for the trash enclosures, and that hopefully will avoid some of the neighborhoods that have been dumping trash in our receptacle.
There was actually one of the notes on the local Airbnb said to go jump all the trash over at the public school on Carn Road. And so we're creating the lockable trash enclosure to hopefully deter that.
Yeah. San Antonio bathroom, you'll see here that there's some pipes that are the vent pipes for the toilets and the plumbing. And you'll notice that they are recessed into the studs that are a shear wall for the building. And so they were originally 2x6 studs, which are now about a 2x2 stud because they've cut holes in them to put the plumbing in. And I don't know what year that was done, but it's been standing for a long time, but it's not copacetic with DSA. And you'll see even the shear wall diagonal beam has been cut through in several places. So that's not good. So we had a change order on the docket for that to correct that. And in fact, it's a ratification because we knew we had to do it, so we just did it.
This was a similar situation that we found at the south wall of the Matilaha locker room as well.
Yeah.
So it was just standard back in the day. So
talk about this one, Adam.
So this is the Miramani restroom upgrade. On the left, you can see the original, and the middle picture, those are the original urinals as well. The old, all the way to the floor urinals. So these were the last two bathrooms on campus that were original, I would say. So on the right, these are all done now, but at the time of this, we have new sinks, we have new waterless urinals, we got new FRP, gray FRP all the way up the walls. So those are 4x8 panels as well. They were able to cut out the curb where the urinals used to be on the floor, and that's where you see that patch. So we will tackle correcting the actual epoxy floor over the summer, but we wanted to get these obviously up and running. So these also are equipped with the new hand dryers, touchless hand dryers, touchless faucets, and touchless soap dispensers. And again, just like Nordhoff, like I said, we did the 4x8 sheets of gray FRP because they're very easily replaced as things get either marked or scuffed or just aged as we go on. It's very easy on the maintenance staff to replace these. So
unlike the tile, which is problematic.
Yeah, we found when we did Nordhoff, actually, some of the tile is, it's time consuming and it's expensive to repair, but a lot of the tile, they don't make that same shade anymore. So we're kind of matching it as close as we can. So this is a lot easier.
I can't imagine this teal tile isn't just easy to pick up.
I know, it's shocking they don't make that color anymore. So
Actually, you would think it'd be retro and be back in.
exactly. And I think that's it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was the last one.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you, every time I drive by Matilaha, I'm watching the cafeteria. So it's looking better and better every time. So I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
And I recently showed my kids the pictures of Matilaha cafeteria. They're jealous to never get to experience that. They're feeling a little bit like they need to go back to middle school. It looks so wonderful. We're very appreciative.
Thank you. I can't tell you how many people, text us saying, wow, you drive by at night and all the lights are on, the stair lights are lit up. It looks really great. So.
And those lights are on a timer, or they're becoming on a timer?
They're on a timer.
Yeah, they've been programmed now. There was a time in the beginning where they had been turned on, and they also have a battery backup. And until the programming was done to tell the battery backup, when to activate, it would somehow damage the batteries if we turned them off. So we did have to leave them on for a while, but now they're on a program.
I have to tell you, having gone to some band concerts at nighttime or gone, tried to get around that area, there was never any lighting. Even sometimes the back to school nights were, it's got kind of dark over there. So it's nice to have some lighting on those areas.
Yeah.
Lighting is a part of Measure K. So glad you brought that up.
Well, and speaking of, 4.4.2 is Measure J projects and budget update, and Measure K proposed projects.
Yay.
All right.
I'm going to share out your, is this okay? Is this what, well, wait, is this what you'd like to start with?
Yeah, we can start here. This is Measure J.
Right.
So kind of the same look as before. We have all the completed projects, kind of just the bond costs in general. Then we have completed projects to date, total commitment by the site, projects in progress, and you'll see some large numbers there still, obviously for Matilaha and Nordhoff. Those are obviously the dining hall and the library. So those are still considered in progress, even though they are both very close to being done. But for the budget purposes, we can still consider them in progress. And then below is the summary of the projects to be assigned by campus. You can see we still have 1.8, 1.9 assigned to this property, as well as Chaparral. So that's kind of obviously up there. And then we're really, Alan and I were just discussing it. We're getting down to the nitty gritty of Measure J in terms of some of the stuff on the list where we're down to the HVACs and some of the, the electrical replacement at Topa Topa or the water main. We're getting down to some of the really the nitty gritty, the stuff that's not going to be so visual again, but it's good. It's all stuff again that needs to be done anyways. A lot of infrastructure stuff. So as you're going through it, you can see obviously we kind of compilate everything down here. Right now, we do have about $3.5 million left of uncommitted funds from Measure J. Part of that is because as we go through Measure K, you'll see there are some duplicates, and we've pulled the costs out of Measure J and put them on Measure K, like for instance, solar that Alan's actually been spearheading, or some of the, we have HVAC, we have, slurry, we have some of the other stuff, some of the playground stuff at Topa, for instance, is on the Measure K list. So it freed up some money on Measure J technically, but the thought is, those projects are going to kind of ebb and flow in terms of what needs to be done and timing and all of the above. Any questions on that first before we? No?
Well, I guess, obviously if I was a community member, I would say, well, I am a community member. So I'm saying, wait, you asked for more money and you still haven't figured out how to spend $3.5 million. But what you're saying is that $3.5 million, let's say it's going towards the pool, which also needs money from Measure K in order to complete it.
Exactly. We have plenty of ways to spend it.
In fact, at this point, let me just jump in and give a standing ovation to Adam for a lot of the work that was done on this budget, because he had some days at home for quarantine that he was able to just really focus on it. And one of the things that he did was that he took all the individual school budgets and on each line item, he matched them up to what we call our 211 number, and that's the accounting system that is used to track the Measure J expenditures. And so he matched. Before they were kind of loosely attached to that, but they weren't always in alignment. And so project names and the actual 211 numbers. So he aligned all of that. So now our budgets can go match directly to an accounting chart of accounts that you can look at and say, what did we do for that 211 number? And he did that for all the schools. And then, as he said, there's been a little bit of trade-off on the projects between Measure J and Measure K. So we end up with a little bit of extra money on Measure K, and we may have spent a little bit more than what's actually available in Measure K, but there's some rationale behind all of that, and we think it's all very possible.
Thanks, Alan. So we did, for instance, another, like I touched on solar. Solar was $1.8 million of Measure J budget, and we've taken that money and put it in uncommitted on Measure J, but all of solar is now a line item on Measure K. So as a whole, so.
Because if you remember, we didn't have enough remaining funds in Measure J to do all solar. We were going to have to choose some schools and not all schools. And so it made sense to put the bulk of solar in Measure K, right? And then free up these monies for projects that we can complete in their entirety under the Measure J budget.
Right.
Would we expect all those solar projects to be sort of the parking, awning style, or would it be, or not, or do we know?
There's a whole plan that we presented in the past with some design elements, and it depends on the school, but when we get a little bit closer, we'll bring that back for deeper consideration now that we know we can do all of them and we don't have to choose between certain sites and trade-offs.
So there is some desire to do both parking kind of structures versus something a little more aesthetically pleasing. So we'll see.
Yeah. Shade structures potentially.
Exactly.
Some sites don't support that. Some sites have to be panels out wherever in the beyond.
And then all the other sheets here regarding Measure J are showing obviously the site-by-site projects. Projects completed here at Nordhoff, for instance. Excuse me. And then as you go down, you can see, obviously Nordhoff has a lot. It's obviously the largest. Then you have projects in progress for Nordhoff. Again, you have the library and quad, which is obviously a biggie. And then as you go further down is the project still to be done. And again, this is where I talk about it. We are literally in the nitty gritty. We've got, some flooring at Nordhoff, HVAC and IT. Obviously the pool is still on here, but we have the whole aquatics complex, what we're calling the aquatics complex on the Measure K. And every school is pretty much, so now we have every campus and every school is set up exactly the same way. Again, here's Matilaha, what's been completed, in progress. And then again, you go to what's left. It's HVAC, some IT. So we are down to the fun stuff.
You will notice when you drive by Matilaha that the paint of the new building doesn't match the old paint. And also our old paint on Matilaha is just in need of a refresh. I didn't think that was true until I walked around the campus, and it is definitely true. We have some anti-graffiti paint that was put down, and then when you paint over it, it's a different color, and there's just, it looks okay as you're driving by it, whatever the speed limit is there. But when you're on campus, it looks, I clearly followed the speed limit, by the way. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head. So painting will be coming up, obviously not when we have students on campus is the goal, but that building should match, eventually the whole campus will match in its color scheme.
We'll bring it back to, the idea is also bringing it back to true Matilaha colors, as well as, frankly, there's good deals to be had on painting right now, as we found with Nordhoff. So. And then after Matilaha, you obviously have all the elementaries. And this kind of just details, again, what we've done, what we're doing, and what's left of Measure J. That was, identified when Alan and I came on a couple of years ago. So we can kind of go through it. I don't have anything that really jumps off at any of the current campuses. Again, you see Miramani here, HVAC and IT. And you'll see some duplicates as we go here, as well as Measure K. For instance, there's a lot of HVAC replacement he left here under Measure J. And it's on for every campus on Measure K as well. Because while we have the aging stuff now, 5-10 years from now, we've tried to set aside some money to replace those as we go.
So just conceptually, we set aside in Measure K, even though we just painted Nordhoff, for example, you'll see painting Nordhoff on Measure K, because 10 years from now, when we expect to be towards the end of Measure K, we want to paint it one more time with the end of the Measure K funding. We want to potentially upgrade HVAC one more time towards the end of Measure K, because 10 years from now will be probably quite overdue actually for those things. Same thing with IT. So we have designed Measure K so that we can do a lot of projects right at the end that will carry us forward when we no longer have that bond money available.
Any other questions on any of these site-specific sheets for Measure J?
No, but I really appreciate that idea of remembering what we'll need to do before the bond money, because obviously that's what happened to so many of our schools now, just the upkeep of the paint we weren't able to afford with the regular general fund balance. And so it's nice to know that this will keep us going for a couple decades.
Yeah, so the idea is to get 15 years or so out of the 10 years of funding.
Yeah. And you'll see, so here's Measure K. Again, some of these bond costs are estimated. You'll see the two big chunks there are classroom refresh. So we had bond costs and we did district-wide projects. So kind of what we're doing.
Can I pause that in really quick?
Yeah, sorry.
I just want to update the board that we are actually selling our first issuance tomorrow. I had a pricing call today and our prices are pretty amazing, even better than they were at the beginning of December. This is apparently like the best week that we could have had to sell our bonds and price it. We lucked out, or we carefully planned, however you want to look at it. But we're very excited tomorrow, and I'll be able to provide the board an update of how much we'll be able to save taxpayers. But it looks like we got pretty much the best rates we could have gotten out of months and months. So
that's great news.
Yeah.
So we restructured Measure K a little bit in terms of how we're doing stuff. We have obviously all the campus, in particular, campus specific projects, but we have the bond program costs, which we just kind of, guesstimated right now in terms of what Measure J has been doing. But then we have the two major district-wide projects that we're calling it. One is obviously solar. The other one is a district-wide classroom refresh in all classrooms. And we're still obviously coming up with scopes on all of these. But after seeing some of the campuses that we got to take a campus tour with Tiffany and David and some of the staff, we definitely have some great ideas. So we pass those along to a few people.
And I just want to, classroom refresh includes things like paint. While the outside of our campuses look great, it hurts my heart a little bit to go inside of some of them. So it's paint, it's furniture, it's wall coverings, it's new cabinetry that, some of our cabinets are in just not great shape. Our built-ins in the back of the room, it's sinks, it's areas around the sink. We've already done the flooring. So it's basically, some classrooms may not need a lot and some classrooms will need definitely a lot. So we just wanted to give a general estimate, and we'll be including our teachers and our administration as we plan out what the components of those classroom refreshes are. And they'll get to help pick furniture and things like that. But the idea is to standardize across the district. So we don't have some schools that have old junky furniture, or as we were doing the Nordhoff walk last week to look at COVID safety. Some teachers are very good at scavenging like very nice desks. And then some teachers have a room full of not nice desks. And we'd like to have some standardization both between classes and across campuses. So it doesn't feel like one class or school is not as loved as the other ones.
And some of that is on the tech side as well. We've been talking with David Rogers as well. We have a lot of wire mold that's just put up because a lot of the tech was installed over the years. So hiding some of that, upgrading some of that, a little more modern look. So.
And what is that item number 3, measure J, district staffing? Is that?
That, go ahead.
That is the staffing, the bond staffing that we just, again, we took I think 1 year last year, and we just multiplied it out with a little bit of a cushion in there. So that's obviously Alan and I and whoever else happens to be working on the bond as well.
So right now it's Adam, Alan, a bond maintenance, and a portion of a admin.
Times
I
10.
also,
Right.
sorry, Jane.
I was just gonna say times multiple years.
Right, of course, yeah.
I just wanted to go back to the classroom refresh also, and I'm trying to remember, but won't off of the top of my head, if there were any safety features that were recommended in our safety audit that we could also be using.
Yeah. You'll see a lot of the safety features were around parking lots and drop off and pickup, and you'll see those on here.
And there's, some of the tech incorporates some of the safety, as well as, we'll go. Some of it is windows and all of the above, but yeah. And then also part of the classroom refresh is just little things like swapping out the doorknobs for door levers, upgrading all of that to be code compliant as we go forward.
Like ADA compliance required levers, which we don't have.
And Jane, just to let you know, that item 3, district staffing, we put in, that estimated is 5 years right now, just as an estimate. So yeah, going down, obviously we don't have anything completed or in progress yet, but we are kind of chomping at the bit to get there. So, and then here's the projects to be assigned. As we go, obviously, we kind of just based off all the estimates on the project costs, obviously on what we're kind of seeing, what we think best case, worst case, median. And as you go down, again, it lines it out for every school, of course. Of course, Nordhoff has a ton, the lion's share of it, I guess. But when you consider some of the stuff that's on that list, including aquatics complex, of course, it's going to be a little bit higher. And then just below, what we did is, and you'll see it in the breakout, but we threw out, all the grand totals is, 50, call it 54 million. So obviously we are a little short there of about 9 million. Granted, we have the 3.5 still at measure J, but then we also did a high and a low. Like Alan said, I went through here, and then again, Alan did great. Alan came in and said, okay, well, let's do this. And he came up with kind of a high and a low, and we went through everything again. So you can see we're at about 54. Once we started going higher, we have about 54 million we figure is probably worst case. But on the flip side, we're at 26 if we come in low on everything as well. And some of that's based off of timing, scope. There's still a lot of variables. For instance, the classroom refresh is a huge variable. The aquatics complex is a big variable. So we have a lot of scope variables still. So that's kind of why we did the high and the low.
The other thing is that we know we'll be eligible for modernization funds in many of our schools over the next 3 to 10 years. And so we anticipate that's actually about $8 million, but we don't know exactly what that number is. And so that's going to require some additional research, but we know that we have some additional funds that will be available there in the future to help complement some of these projects.
Right, we do know those modernization funds are, as you said, they're about 8 million according to the way things look today. And so they might go up in the future. And those are like matching funds, but we still get dollar for dollar. So sometimes more than $1 per dollar.
So those were available to specific schools in a specific time frame based on when they last got it, the age of the school and a number of other factors. And so, it might be that TOPA gets $150,000 and, San Antonio gets $1 million. I don't know. I'm just making that up, but there's a number of things, but it comes from the state and we have to have matching funds in order to receive it. So,
yeah. Any questions on the summary sheet before we dive into kind of the projects? All right. So here's Nordoff. Obviously, again, nothing completed, nothing in progress. And here are the projects that we have identified between what the administration has asked us to kind of include on each site. We reached out to all the principals, all the assistant principals. They've obviously asked staff. I know there's been some PTA requests as well. So a lot of those are on here, as well as just stuff that, you know, we've all noticed as we're going through the campuses, or stuff that we've noticed, you know, doing our Measure J work, stuff that Tiffany and David have asked about, or, you know, Chuck and Russ and their whole team. So what we did is we put, this is kind of in an order of timing wise. So the green is pretty much stuff we can start on right away, at least get going. You know, the aquatic center is obviously, you know, near and dear to a lot of people in the community. Some of the siding is very easily done. Window replacement on some of the older windows, and some stadium upgrades. So the green on every campus sheet you'll see, the green is stuff that we figure we can start on, start on right away. Now the aquatic center might not be done for a couple of years due to obviously DSA planning, everything that comes with that, but we can get going on it right away.
So Adam, I just want to mention on those stadium upgrades, how we're talking about actually a sports complex type approach to softball, football, soccer, all of those things that will dramatically reduce the amount of time that's required for the maintenance and grounds team to keep it up.
Yeah.
Right, and reducing water usage over time.
Yeah, we've actually we've already started working on a couple of these campuses, not so much Nordoff because there's a whole lot of moving parts there right now. But we started working and discussing it just internally with David and Russ and Chuck, as well as we started meeting with Regina and Asia from the watershed regarding, you know, how to water capture and all of the above, and less water usage, period. Anyways, yeah.
Adam, what kind of changes you're not talking about AstroTurf or whatever they call it now, with respect to the need for less maintenance, are you?
Not necessarily. Sorry, go ahead.
Potentially. Not
everything's kind of up in the air right now in terms of ideas. But a lot of it is, you know, potentially turf, potentially just bringing everything closer together. I mean, right now you have softball and baseball, spread apart with a whole lot of dead space in between. And, you know, home plate on the varsity baseball field is the lowest point of that whole back, like 6 acres. So just changes like that, which would make it a lot easier on the maintenance staff too. So again, the green is stuff that we feel we can get going on right away. Some of these, especially at Nordoff, are you know, going to require some community involvement, and then some of them are pretty easily done, like the window upgrades. You know, Alan's already started working on that, speccing them for for Miramani, which would be the same thing that we start using district wide. The yellow is probably stuff that we figured are 2 to 5 years out in terms of starting on. But again, a lot of this is fluid. And then again, there, Kevin, you'll see line item 21 is baseball, softball field upgrades. That could go, again, jump up with stadium upgrades, and we do it all at the same time. So again, a lot of it's fluid. There's a discussion that Alan and I have been having, you know, if we start doing upgrades on that end of campus, you know, do we drag it out over 6 years and just slowly do it, or do we just, you know, demo that side of campus and bite the bullet for 2 years or a year and a half? So lots of discussion, lots of moving parts still. And then the blue is, like Tiffany touched on, stuff that is towards the end of the bond, or stuff that as we get going, we decide what we want to do. You'll see on there HVAC, IT, parking lot repave, parking lot paving. You'll see On some of the other campuses, instead of parking lot repave, it'll say slurry. It's stuff just to protect the investment more than anything. And to, painting, redo it towards the end of the bond, the parking lots, to make sure they don't get as bad as they were before, and protect what we've already done.
Are we looking at any outdoor classroom stuff?
Yes, especially on the elementary campuses, of course, just due to some of the window replacement that needs to take place on some of those campuses. It actually lends itself to a little easier do some indoor-outdoor classroom space.
Our plan at Nordhoff is actually, and we have we're working on a proposal that I hope to bring to you next month on a whole campus plan, and having an architectural firm help us to do a cohesive plan, looking at the sports complex, looking at the pool, looking at outdoor classroom space, looking at the cafetorium, and looking at holistically, what are all the pieces that we need to have on campus, and how can we utilize that best for students and instruction? And so particularly at Nordhoff, we want to make sure that everything we're doing fits together, and that we don't, do one project without considering how that impacts the entire campus. So we're looking at a whole plan for Nordhoff, which will involve much community input and many community outreach, ways of the community to help provide input on that.
And
then
also taking into consideration if there's anything on the district property that needs to move over to there, right?
right, yes.
Exactly.
So that's
Are
coming
we,
in the
sorry. Are we planning to do an RFP process for hiring an architectural firm?
We actually don't need to, because it's professional services. And so we've been actually looking at other architects who have been working with other schools in Ventura County. We went and visited some schools that were done to see if we liked the outcome.
I think it's worth mentioning, Tiffany, that's especially true when it comes to the master plan, but at the same time, we do have a request for qualifications, an RFQ that has been posted, so that as we go into Measure K, we can have a cadre of design professionals that are sort of pre-approved and pre-qualified. And then Adam and I and the team would look at, which architectural firm does this project best fit into their wheelhouse?
Yeah.
Because the architect for a pool may be completely different than the architect for a stadium or something else.
Right, which is different than a master plan for a site.
And the RFQ just gives you the ability to look and see if your stylistic views align well with that firm or not, right?
Right.
Yeah, what we have found, obviously working through Measure J, is that each firm definitely has their specialty. And there's not one firm that will knock out all of these, to our liking. So
I did have a question. I noticed you mentioned that you'd consulted a number of folks as we were building these tricolor lists. And you may just not have mentioned it, but I'm hoping that there is space for a broader solicitation of suggestions from our employees, a little, at least an opportunity for folks to throw things into the consideration list. So
yeah,
just
again, there's there is, as we've seen obviously with the Measure J budgets. When Alan and I came on, there's a lot of stuff on that list that we've completed or that's in progress that was not on the list. Obviously, when priorities change, and we obviously understand that. And I think as kind of the ball gets rolling again with Measure K, there'll be stuff as well. So, but we did try to. We reached out to everybody. A lot of people gave suggestions. Again, like I said, even PTAs have obviously taken an interest in it. So.
Yeah, I'll just throw out that, jumping on the RFP idea, whether that's necessary or appropriate, when you're choosing sort of the designer and, looking at sort of intangible things that go beyond the hourly rate, we still really, I think this board has always, as really felt like we wanted to get the best value we can. And I think price should be always an aspect of it. it's one of the reasons why you and Alan are here.
Yep. And we don't disagree. So price will definitely be a factor, as well. Again, their kind of specialty, and we'll try to take it all into consideration and obviously consult with everybody. Any questions on that? Was Nordhoff, obviously, but and then every site going forward, you'll see kind of mimics a lot of the same. Obviously, the color, the tri-coating is the same. We tried to go through again, and this was one of the things where Chris and Kelly actually jumped in on Matilaha and said, hey, this would be the list you guys have looks great. All of those are needed, but we actually really want some more bathrooms. So we put that, and that's obviously line item 14 in the green there. Just
Stayed at the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. So there's 13 and 14 were actually put in there by the administration. And you can see some of these are, holdovers from Measure J, like the track upgrades on line 16. That was on Measure J originally. And that's probably further down the line though, till we get talking about maybe some of the quad or frankly, the solar could play an impact in some of that. So we'll see. So this is Matilaha. Again, Matilaha has the gym foyer, obviously desperately needs to be redone, as well as, some of the sewer and water lines, some of the infrastructure redid. Obviously the west half of campus already for sewer. We still need to do the east side. And then again, the green is stuff we feel like we could jump on right away. So that's Matilaha. Any questions on that? No?
I'm very excited about the library quad upgrade and drainage. That's something that we get asked a lot about, is that giant space in between the auditorium and the library. And we're hoping to make that again a very nice community use space in the future with lots of input. And I know a lot of groups have talked about that, but it's going to take a community effort to make that a great space for the community.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then we jump into all the elementaries, and you'll see on Miramani and Miners Oaks in particular, we have the window upgrades. Those are big. You have both campuses, the whole back of the three main buildings are all the older windows. I think Miners Oaks even has the old sliding glass doors in there that are, I don't know how heavy, and some of them don't work, obviously. So, yeah. So, Rebecca, this kind of lends itself to your question about indoor-outdoor space. We discussed in particular at Miners Oaks, but Miramani is in the same boat. Some of those interior spaces probably 4 or 5 months ago, and the window upgrades kind of dive right into that. Once we upgrade the windows, we're looking into not only window upgrades for more energy efficiency, but also we were looking into some sort of bifold doors in the windows so that you can have a more indoor-outdoor feel. And then in turn, we redo the space in between the classrooms, which needs to be redone due to drainage, sewer lines, oversized trees, all of the above. And that's where you see between line item 12 is between the classrooms, utilities, drainage, all of the above. So outdoor classroom space.
I think it's worth mentioning, Adam, that on the field restoration, we're looking at actually shrinking the footprint of grass, but still providing for a DG track and surround, and basically using Miramani as a template to design the other elementary schools. And we're looking at something like at Miramani, you have 190,000 square feet of grass that may get reduced by 80,000 square feet and still have a more usable, more usable area that's easier to supervise.
Correct. And you have one of the field restoration projects, like Alan said, that we're working on is, you have a DG track that's actually a quarter-mile track for all PE campuses. We're talking, part of the scope is irrigation, some sort of gopher control, redoing the sod as well. So we have, usable fields for everybody, not just smaller fields, but usable fields. And the goal is to reduce it from a maintenance standpoint, B, to help with, for not just mowing, but reduces the necessary water, reduces it for rodent control, but it still maintains the use for community groups. You know, one of the renderings that we're looking at from Miramani still has 3 6U AYSO fields, a 10U AYSO field, and 2 baseball fields, all while reducing it by 80 or 90,000 square feet of turf. So. And so that's Miramani. And as you'll see going down, a lot of they mimic each other a lot due to the need. We kind of ticked off a lot of the stuff from under Measure J, but this is the stuff that is needed.
Before you go past Miners Oaks, I didn't see anything there about the library, that, you know, that community, the joint library. Is that not under a Measure K funding, or?
That's actually listed under Measure J.
Okay.
So we threw that under Measure J when we were, you know, moving projects back and forth. We put it under Measure J.
And then on Topa Topa, when you're talking about the playground and the shade, the playground and the fields,
Yes.
I assuming, again, this is, somebody asked this question already, but talking to the staff, I know before COVID, there was a big push at Topa Topa to kind of become the sort of farm school, you know, have chickens, and so I just hope that as you move on any of these campuses, that you kind of work with the staff on what they're sort of, you know, if we have the green school or we have the this school, that we kind of are in line with what they are projecting themselves as.
So Jane, part of the proposal that I'm going to bring for the master plan actually includes community meetings about the elementary sites as well, and not a detailed master plan in the same sense as at Nordhoff, but a plan for each of our elementary schools and for Matilaha as well. So, and that's developed from the community meetings and outreach.
And regarding the playgrounds, we actually, we started kind of designing and talking to Dawn over there at Topa about a new playground just for the main playground. And same thing, we gave her a couple renderings and she went out to all staff and asked them what they thought as well. So we definitely, especially for those big pieces like that, we definitely ask for a lot of input on that. So yeah, any questions about any of this? Topa? No, all right. San Antonio, again, mimics it. We have, you'll see number 1 there on San Antonio, line item 12 is classroom roof replacements. We are down to, again, just a few roofs. We have a couple at San Antonio and we have a couple at Nordhoff that are due. The San Antonio ones are the shingle roofs. I think it's classroom like 3 through 7 or 3 through 9, I think. And then over at Nordhoff is the A and the B wing. And oddly enough, the offices that were put in, the office and music building that were put in 2004 at Nordhoff are just about ready for new roofs as well. But after that, we'll have done all the roofs. So.
With a what, 20-year warranty?
Yes.
20 or 30, depending on the roof.
Depending on the roof, and all with the same company. So should, you know, all of us go away, there's one point of contact for any roof issue, which is very nice for the district going forward. You'll see on a lot of the elementaries too, I forgot to mention, under the yellow is kitchen upgrades. Those again are holdovers from Measure J, because we didn't really tackle any of the kitchen upgrades at any of the elementaries. Some of that is depending on what we do at Nordhoff. Obviously, we'll discuss and have input from Francis. But the thought, I know a lot of was, you know, we had Matilaha, and then we were going to do some minor upgrades at Nordhoff and all the elementaries. What I think we're going to end up proposing is possibly more of a major upgrade at Nordhoff, and again, minor upgrades at the elementaries. After talking with Francis, as well as Julie, her predecessor, that kind of seems to be the direction they want to go. But you'll notice those are on there because we didn't tackle them during Measure J. We pulled them all off.
And it would seem like on that subject that we want to get our arms around the sort of the whole concept of how we're going to deliver food right in the district. I mean, I know we talked for a while about scratch cooking more and more, and the idea of a centralized kitchen and distributing it to the satellites where the individual school sites wouldn't have a particularly important role.
Right. Correct. Yeah, I think TOPA was the only one that got some kitchen upgrades. Everything else we were able to kind of pump the brakes on before until we figure out what we want to do as a district.
There's a lot of equipment related to scratch cooking, like the, oh my gosh, I can never remember, the sheeter, the spreader, that
Sheeter.
the sheeter, I got it right, that we just bought at Matilaha for the new kitchen that allows us to make homemade bread and cinnamon rolls and things like that. So we wouldn't put one of those in at each kitchen. We would have that as part of the central kitchen or one of two central kitchens, depending on maybe what we're making and where. So that's part of the whole overall planning.
All right, so that's San Antonio. We have Summit, a lot of the same stuff. Kitchen windows are right away. And then we have, playground hasn't been touched up there in a while. So, and then again, the blue stuff is a lot of the very similar stuff for down the line. And I think that's it. What do we have left? We have Chaparral, and then, yeah.
I have kind of an overall question.
Yeah.
A bit of a programmatic piece, so Tiffany, you might have to jump in, but I'm curious how we're focusing on the state's goals to bring CTE K-12. And are we looking at any of that in these as we're designing, or is that more of a design piece when we come into it?
It's more of a design piece, and I think a lot of that is going to be part of the classroom things. But as Jane mentioned, TOPA has talked about expanding into the natural resources and agriculture kind of model. So we are thinking about that. But since we don't have any robust CTE programs, we have some small CTE at different sites, but we don't have a robust CTE program. We have to build the program as we are also designing the facility. And so it's kind of a chicken and egg question. But
like at Nordhoff, maybe?
When we do the classroom refreshes, for sure.
Okay.
So for example, with our medical pathway, we would want to make sure that we have a room that's got all of the space for beds and all of those things that the CNA program, the CNA program takes such amount of work, and it's so much stuff, and you can't really share the classroom. So we'll need to think about how to, where to put that and that kind of stuff. So moving forward, for sure.
Great, thank you.
And then just Adam and Alan, I noticed the last one was for Chaparral. What's the thinking there, since we don't know where it would be? Is that
on hold till we know where it would be?
Yeah, some of the stuff we threw in there is, assuming it's here, but again, with window upgrades and stuff like that. But again, we don't know.
We want to make sure that we have money so that if it ends up moving, we can make it a nice place. So we want to make sure we have money allocated to that, in addition to the costs that are built into the RFP for the development of the district office property. So we have some money in Measure J, some money in Measure K, and whether we use it for upgrades to this building or for developing a new site and outfitting that new site was to be determined. But the money is allocated to that school.
great?
Any other questions, comments?
Just for the folks at home, we will, as this list evolves, be presented with more specificity and estimates of the individual costs and all that stuff like we did last time. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll tackle it project by project.
Although we generally don't put out specific line items for specific projects because we find that the bids come in at magically that number that we had available to spend.
You're
And
so cynical.
well, that is true. So we don't want to, tip our hand, and we find like that it may be financially prudent for us to give those numbers to the board so that the board is aware of them, but to not necessarily make them available to the public until after the bids come. And that's when you always see them go through the whole process that we have for approving projects and so forth. So
Thank you.
And look how
the
much
other thing we have the
saved on
range of the
windows.
low and high. Sorry, Jane.
I was saying, look how much we saved on the window coverings and flooring and.
Painting. We were,
Yeah, wow.
yeah, Nordhoff painting was so much less than we would have put on a line item in this document. So
Yeah, Nordhoff was painted for about 1.5 times the cost of painting Miramani.
with way more buildings and
Way.
the N and the every little shed all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, things are changing in construction so much. It's just crazy the way. I mean, there's no predicting right now, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Any other questions or anything on the budgets?
I was going to say, I'm sure that there's some questions from the community about when the pool will get started. I would say that's part of the work that we're doing right now is that overall proposal for a site plan. And then the site plan involves lots of community input, but we are slowly collecting individuals who will be on our pool advisory committee or our aquatic complex advisory committee. And as soon as we have from the board kind of a go ahead with the master plan, then we'll start simultaneously ramping up that pool advisory committee. So that is in progress right now, just in the early formation stages, but there is actually work happening. We've been collecting data and information about the different costs of pools. For example, we went and visited a bunch of pools or a few pools, got costs on how much it is to operate them. And then we'll be having some experts on the committee who can talk to us about because we obviously run a competition pool, not a community pool. And so we're looking at, what are the elements of a community pool that we would also need to know in the building that would help us with being cost effective in the future. So that's all work that's being done right now.
Is there any idea towards collaboration with another entity? I mean, I know, Measure K is big, but I mean, I remember seeing some of those projections of the cost of a true aquatic center being, literally like half of Measure K.
Yeah, so we've been in talks actually for more than a year with the Y. As you know, the YMCA running community pools and aquatic center is kind of their bread and butter. That's what they do across the entire country. And so we've been talking to them even before we got Measure K, and they build and run community pools and aquatic centers and are excited about exploring a partnership with us and what that might look like. So they will definitely be part of our work on this moving forward.
Great, thank you. I'm going to move us forward, and there's no objection to ratifying the change orders. I'd like to actually move to take 4.4, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, and 0.6 together. I'll make a motion to approve them all if there's a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. Those pass 5-0.
Can I, before we leave, just thank Adam and Alan for this tremendous amount of work. It is actually much harder to take something complicated and make it look simple than to take a complicated thing and just dump it on you in all of its complexity. And so this is so much work to make it easy for the public to understand, easy for us to understand and follow for both Measure J and K. And I really appreciate their attention to detail and their work in thinking through all of these things and making it something that's digestible for everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, we it's a great working relationship, I gotta say. You know,
Yeah.
I do something and then Alan comes through and fine tunes it and vice versa. And it's been great. So
Yeah, it's,
I agree. Thank you very much. And for the forward thinking that we're seeing in that too. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I would just say, for what it's worth, Adam and Alan and David and I meet, I don't know, every 2 weeks, and we include David Rogers in this so that there's always a connection from what the bond is doing to what maintenance and operations is doing as well. So it's, we make sure that we're closing that whole loop and they don't work in isolation. We work all in conjunction together on a regular basis. Although I think we haven't met in a little while. And I'm like, I have a whole list of stuff I made for you tonight.
it's all right. We have a list too. And
Okay.
but yeah, we really do try to meet. And then, you know, like I mentioned, I think earlier last week, we met with Russ and David and Chuck and Alan and I just regarding just the Miramani field as a sample and really trying to collaborate with each other before we even take it out to the site administration and just kind of say, look, this is kind of what we're thinking from a maintenance and operation, and does it work for you guys? You know, so.
Well, I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration to say that part of the credibility that got us Measure K was your responsible and forward-thinking handling of Measure J. So, you know, I just want to echo the thanks.
Thank you. And it helps to have Tiffany's guidance. I'm not going to lie. You know, when we were talking about Measure K stuff, she was the one that brought up, hey, don't forget about painting down the line. You know, we've really got to do it as the tail end. And I can't tell you how many people have told me how great Nordhoff looks right now. You know, so it's that kind of forward thinking for 10 years down the road. Keep it looking that great. So thank you.
More people playing basketball in Matillo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Good night.
4.5.1 is the resolution in recognition of Black History Month, which is February. I noticed, and I meant to make a correction before we reposted for tonight, that there are still a little back and forth between African American history and Black history. So maybe for next year we clean it up a little bit. Is there anyone that would like to read it? Michael, you had a hand in helping, or maybe 3/4 of it?
You know, I'll read like maybe the first 3 whereases and then just
Okay.
pass it on. So whereas Black History Month, or National African American History Month, is an annual celebration of achievements by Black Americans in a time for recognizing the central role of African Americans in United States history. And whereas historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the famed African American historian known as the father of Black history, and prominent minister Jesse E. Moreland, established the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, the ASNLF, in 1915, dedicated to researching and promoting achievements by Black Americans and other peoples of African descent, which today is known as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas ASALH sponsored a National Negro History Week in 1926, choosing the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. And
Okay. Yeah, and I'll go down towards the bottom and just talk about the district a little bit. Page 3 of 3. Whereas the Ojai Unified School Governing Board supports engaging students in creating a campus environment that raises awareness of injustices, encourages ongoing critical reflection, and courageous conversations concerning racial injustice, overt acts of racism, hate, and builds community. And whereas all students need an opportunity to understand the common humanity underlying all people, to develop pride in their own identity and heritage, and to respect and accept the identity and heritage of others. And now therefore be it resolved that Ojai Unified School District hereby recognizes the month of February as Black History Month and encourages all schools to support this occasion by participating in appropriate instructional activities that explore the past, present, and future of Blacks in the United States. And be it further resolved that the Ojai Unified School Governing Board supports identifying funding sources and efforts to implement inclusive training to assist in removing barriers to Black student achievement, and locate and implement curriculum that fully integrates the Black experience into the broader social studies curriculum, and seek resources to provide family support to improve student performance. I think that particular piece is really important into inclusion in the broader social studies curriculum, not just Black History Month.
I would share, Jane, that for Black History Month next month, our guiding coalition, A Place at the Table event is Coffee with a Black Guy by James Joyce III, who runs this Coffee with a Black Guy program nationally, was just actually featured in Forbes magazine, used to be the staff member for Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, and will be joining us to host Coffee with a Black Guy on February 24th. So, in honor of Black History Month.
Great. I would also recommend, especially for our high school students, seeing the documentary All In with Stacey Abrams. There is so much history about voting rights that I had no idea. I just had no idea, and it's really fascinating. So, would anyone like to move to approve the
I would
resolution?
like to move to approve the Black History Month resolution.
I will second.
All those in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. Board member reports. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report? And 4.5.3, future agenda items. Any suggestions or concerns or?
I have one. Since we are a new board, as I joined, I would love to discuss a future agenda item of having a board retreat.
Great. And I think Shelley, that goes in, you were also talking about maybe revisiting.
I had, yeah, a governance retreat, I think would be helpful at this point, yeah.
I know it would be helpful for me as a new member, so.
Okay. So I know we add that to the future agenda items unless somebody, maybe we have internal discussions on, maybe Rebecca, if you can talk to Tiffany about what a timing you were thinking about for that. And then we can have Kathy poll the board and see what dates work. Or if we add it to, yeah.
That would be great. Thank you. I will do that.
Thank you, everyone.
You actually don't have to, Rebecca. I heard. So, so we'll get started on that. So I'll save you an email.
Thank you, everyone, for the extra meeting and to the public for their comments. I really appreciate it. We'll see you in a few weeks for our February meeting. I guess I should look at that. Is that the 24th?
Oh, it's so far away.
It'll
Yes.
be after our break.
Right, because we have the winter break, it's not winter.
The
February.
President's Week.
Yes.
holiday.
Is that the date you just said for Coffee with a Black Guy?
I'm wrong. Kathy's saying I'm wrong. I picked a Wednesday and it's not on, I don't know. Would it be the 10th? It would be the middle of that week. Is it the 17th, Kathy?
It is actually the 10th,
Not the 10th, so just 2 weeks.
February 10th. Yeah. That's actually what I thought. And I was like, it's a long time from now.
I must have been thinking back to the January one.
Perfect. That's great.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.